And it didn't even beat
As it turns
AI
out,
Tango
Mario Kart
from
Wii is
taking very
just
wide
a hard
lines
game,
entering the shortcut
as the
to
world
avoid
record
the speeds
point.
ahead after only 3 turns. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I first showcased Linesight in Mario Kart, it had several bugs that were drastically hindering its performance. Today, I'm going to tell you how I fixed those bugs and show you just how strong Linesight actually is. My name is Studipity, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Luigi's Circuit. What you're seeing now is Linesight's best run, along with the top 5 times in the world, as well as AI Tango and Linesight's previous best run. After only 3 turns, we can see that Linesight's newest run is maintaining the pace of the top 5 players in the world, even through the shortcut. In lap 2, we see that Linesight is maintaining top 5 pace, while the version I showed off in my previous video has already fallen behind by 1/3 of a second. Lap 3, the final stretch. Linesight continues to make precise turns going into the final straightaway, and makes one final perfect wheelie chain going into the shortcut, which it takes just barely wider than the top 5 players, and finishes the race in 5th place in the world, just ahead of Colsey with a time of 108.934. Linesight just improved by nearly a second, matching the absolute best players in the world in only 70 hours of training. Normally, AIs like this one take years to develop and slowly improve, getting closer to human play and subsequently closer and closer to superhuman levels over the course of many, many months of testing, training, and retraining. But that's part of what makes Linesight Mario Kart Wii special, because I'm not the one who went through that process. That honor goes to PB4 and Agade. They've spent the better part of 3 years improving Linesight to where it is today, beating some of the toughest world records in Trackmania. That project is what I've transferred laterally into Mario Kart Wii. The reason I had such bad results previously was due to hidden bugs in the code that were actively working against the AI. I don't know if I can demonstrate enough how powerful Linesight is. While AI Tango showed off that his AI beat 21 world records, it pales in comparison to Linesight's time that would have beaten every human on Earth until 2018. An extra 9 years of world record progression. So what happened? Why did Linesight perform so poorly in my last video? Well, let me take you back to when I released that video, when I first showcased Linesight. As you might have seen, it did not surpass above average human play, nor did it surpass my expectations for it. Linesight was slower than the already existing AI. This confused me more than anything else. I just expected the same level of precision that it got in Trackmania to be present in Mario Kart. The games are very different, but the goal is the same: drive as fast as possible. I was expecting it to perfectly translate, but that's not what I had gotten. So I thought, okay, if it can't beat normal driving, I just need something sneakier. Something that can give the AI an advantage over regular humans. So I modified the code to let the AI select an action for every single frame instead of only every 4th frame. And then I gave it a reward for external velocity, and I made it drive an outside drifting bike. I made these changes for a very specific reason. I wanted to see if it could learn super hopping, a task-only technique that requires consecutive frame-perfect inputs with precise drifting and joystick movement that causes outside drifting bikes to constantly build up external velocity, pushing the kart forwards much faster than it's supposed to go. It's impossible for human players to do this because the game runs at 60 frames per second, and we're lucky to hit 1 of those frame-perfect timings, let alone 5 in a row every 1/3 of a second. But that shouldn't be an issue with the AI if it can play every frame. So I started training the AI again, and it completely flunked out and learned absolutely nothing. It would seem as though there were still bugs in my code. So 3 days of debugging later, and the AI was still unable to consistently drive around a flat track. And this is after I had fixed multiple bugs. So, rather than continue banging my head against the wall trying to teach the AI a human illegal technique that's not even guaranteed to work, I looked to instead try and make my life a bit easier by making the training process faster, running it on Linux instead of Windows. Luckily for me, Linesight was developed with both in mind, so I only had to make minor changes in the code to be able to make this work. Getting the Dolphin emulator to work was actually the hardest part of this process. I spent like 10 hours total trying to figure that single thing out. But I was able to continue testing, and the AI was now training faster than ever before. Now, before I did all this, I was fairly certain that I didn't have any serious issues in my code, but after essentially an entire week of purely debugging, I knew there were probably more mistakes to be found. So, just in case, I disabled some rewards that weren't doing anything, because I had previously set all of those values to 0, so the AI was only getting a reward for making progress along the track. In the meantime, I was training the AI on N64 Bowser's Castle, so I paused the training, applied the changes that won't change anything, and wait, why did that change something? Oh, I assumed that all the rewards I was just testing with earlier were set to do nothing. I thought I was only giving the AI rewards for, driving along the track. But as it turns out, I was also accidentally giving the AI a reward for being really, really close to the center of the track. What this means is that anytime the AI was further away from that arbitrary line, it would get punished. I had essentially made the track smaller for the AI, punishing it for going outside that zone, thus forcing it to take wider lines. This, I think, was the driving factor that hindered Linesight the most in my previous attempts. It wasn't optimizing to drive as fast as possible, it was optimizing being close to an arbitrary line on the track that had nothing to do with speed. That is what I believe led to Linesight producing such a mediocre time in my last video. And the run it produced after I had fixed that bug, the one I showed off at the start of this video, is proof that my intuition was not wrong. Linesight is a revolutionary AI. I have no doubt in my mind that Linesight is capable of beating the human world records in Mario Kart Wii. It truly is that strong. The level of optimization it is already able to achieve is rivaled only by the most dedicated and skilled of players. And I know this because I've been holding something back from you guys. The run I showed you all at the start of this video is not Linesight's best run. You see, a few weeks ago, PB4 expressed interest in running my version of the AI on his machine. Once I had it running on Linux and made the fixes that led to the run you saw previously, I helped PB4 get the AI up and running for Mario Kart Wii, and he made a few adjustments based on his experience with Linesight and started a training session. And within 24 hours, Linesight had already beaten its previous best time, getting a 108.918, whereas I had trained it for 70 plus hours for the 108.934. And it wasn't even close to being done.